right, people are starting to come in. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Welcome to the Urban Cash Coach. Today we have a guest visitor here with us, and I'm super excited to share all the information that we have. So I'll give you guys a few more moments just to get signed in and get settled. So we did find out that we actually cannot see comments on this post, unfortunately. So we do have some Facebook logins. So you're welcome to leave some comments if anyone is following either of us on Facebook. You can inbox either Jeanna or I if there are any questions that need answered. Otherwise, I have collected some questions from folks in preparation for this, so no worries. And this will be able to be shown later on the YouTube channel. And I'll make sure that both Jeanna and myself have the code so that we can share it. So let's go ahead and get started, everyone. So welcome. My name is Nicole Simpson, and I am the Urban Cash Coach. I have formulated an organization here in Columbus, Ohio, to help individuals learn how to best manage their finances, how to handle their credit situations, how to be able to pay down their debt, how to be able to save as much money as they can. Just overall personal finance is what I actually attempt to do with the folks. So there's been some great success here in the last few weeks with several of the programs that we've been running. And in the middle of that, I began to review a book, and the book was called The Debt-Free Scream. So on the Debt-Free Scream book that I began to read, I fell so in love with the story of our guest today, who is Jeanna Infantino. I fell in love with her story. I fell in love with what she and her husband had accomplished. And I looked her up and asked if she would be willing to come out and have a conversation with us about how she and her husband did something amazing, being able to pay off $175,000 in student loan debt in about 2.5 years. So that is over the moon amazing to me. And most people are having some type of student loan debt that's holding them down, that's weighing them down. And I think that she's got something to share with us to help us get out from underneath of that debt load. So without much further ado, I want to take the opportunity to introduce to you our guest for the evening, Miss Jeanna Infantino.
Thank you, Nicole. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We're super excited. I am in no way, shape, or form a finance person. I did not go to school for finance. I don't study it. I don't work it. I pretty much just got into this debt and needed to figure a way out of it. So I found a love for budgeting, planning, tracking money. It became almost a game, and it was fun for me. So I work in Baltimore at the Hilton. I started there when I was just out of college as an event coordinator. So I did not make a lot of money by any means to start out. I worked multiple jobs and ended up working the events team there, and recently moved over to a sales manager. So just like you, same situation. My husband and I had a ton of debt, and we were overwhelmed by it, but we weren't making, 6-figure numbers in a salary. So we just didn't know how we were going to come out of it. So I wrote the book, and I'm happy to share it with you. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to come on and share with the community what it is that you've been able to accomplish. Student loan statistics, I was just reading through some of them today, and some of the things that I found out is they say that Americans on average have student loan debt of just short of $30,000 when they graduate from undergrad. I did some double clicking, and I did a little bit of a deep dive because a lot of the clients that I serve are minorities. And I found out that minorities typically have double, sometimes triple the amount of student loan debt. So sometimes we find that burden is even higher. And one of the most important things for me when it came to the student loan debt is because there's been some laws that have changed. So having a lot of student loan debt on your credit profile can actually prevent you from being able to achieve the American dream. which is for most of us home ownership. So a lot of the people who I coach and that I work with, they say things like, hey, I'm on a minimum payment plan, an income-based payment plan. So I'm making these tiny little payments and I'll probably make them until the day that I die. And oftentimes when it goes to their debt to income ratio for qualifying for different lending products and things like that, they don't even qualify. So I know this is something that's been on everyone's mind as far as how to be able to get out from underneath of it. So I really just want to jump back in. And if you can just share with us, like, what were you feeling the moment that you realized, oh my gosh, look at the number when we do our finances, kind of talk to us, what was going on? How did you guys come up with the idea? This is how much debt that we're in. How did you feel about it? And what really kind of gave you the jump start to kind of really getting your finances in order? Take us back to that time.
So going into this, my husband was in grad school for physical therapy. So he was there for 3 years. So we knew we were accumulating a lot of debt. He may have known how much, but I wasn't aware of how much. I was in undergrad school. I had, my own school debt, but it wasn't anything like his. It was more the $30,000, like the average you talk about. But I was working on it. I was paying it. I had my few jobs that I was doing. But upon his graduation in May, around February, we started to really look at it. We looked at each loan, what we had in private, what we had in, all these government loans, Perkins. And we actually sat down with a friend of ours who does work in finance, and he helped us out and he gave us the final number. And that's when I think it was like $178,000. And I was shocked because I had no idea. I thought we were at the $100,000 range, which was a little bit easier to grasp. I don't know why, but it felt better than, closer to $200,000. So when I saw that, we were both pretty shocked, just thinking, how are we going to get this paid off? I think the biggest thing we would notice is, the interest on that already, because we had some loans that were 9%, 8%, which is extremely high when you have private loans. So just in interest alone, we were looking at, $13,000 a year. So when we saw that, it was just, how are we going to pay off interest and then put a dent into the loans too? So I think those big moments were just like a wake-up call for us. Because if that was the case over 10 years, we would be paying another $100,000 in just interest. So at that point, I think it was an uncle had told us about Dave Ramsey and just kind of said, look into it, see if you want to, research the program. And we did. And the initial call, you have your own kind of financial advisor to help walk you through it. I think it was like $300. And at the time, I was like, we cannot pay $300 for this. I'm like, it's just more money. But we did. And it was well worth it, because from there, they gave us a plan that seemed reasonable. So we talked about our life and our individuality and what worked for us. And from there, we started a plan. But upon realizing it, just knowing, you just feel overwhelmed by debt. You think that there's no way that you're going to come out of it. And you think that, for the next 20 years, I'll just have this student loan payment, which is what a lot of people say. And for me, that wasn't going to happen. I couldn't even imagine, a $200 car payment I wasn't okay with. So having that loan over my head for, 20 years was not something I was okay with.
Wow. Now, if I can just do a little bit of deep diving into your background, tell me a little bit about what you and your husband's background was like, because a lot of the folks that are in our group and folks that I coach on a regular basis, finance is not really something that's talked about at our kitchen tables.
Yeah.
We will talk about sex, money, drugs, and pretty much everything else other than how to handle finance, how to be able to pay back debt and things like that. So the first step that you said was you went and sat down with a financial professional. A lot of us don't really do that. Was that something that you guys came up with on your own, or was that something that's kind of been taught to you over the years, just little nuggets being dropped as you were growing up?
Yeah, no, growing up, that wasn't something that we ever talked about. We didn't sit down at the table and talk about finances. my parents were good with money, but they kind of just managed it on their own. The day to day, just like everyone else, they go to work, they save, and then they don't spend more than they're making. So when we first heard about talking to a financial advisor through our uncle, I, of course, was, because I'm the one that's a little bit more frugal than my husband, I said no, because it was a lot of money. But, he assured me, it's an investment, it's going to help us out down the road, saving all this money in the end. But for me, I had never even thought to talk to a financial advisor. But after we did, we continued to tell our friends. And from there, of course, a lot of the people we know are in just as much debt as we were because we went to school with them. So from there, they even started talking to a financial person. And it really does get your finances in line because it helps you come up with a plan. It's all about knowing where your money's going, budgeting, and keeping track. So.
Awesome. Awesome. I like that. So $300 is what the amount was that you were paying. Was that a monthly fee as a part of the financial coaching that you were receiving through the program you did, or how frequent did you have to pay that $300?
No, it was a one-time fee. I think it was 300. It wasn't more than, it was like 300 to 400 one-time fee. And that gave you, like 4 sessions of 30 to an hour of coaching. So from there, they would just, the first one, they talk to you about what you are doing. So at the time, again, we weren't making much money at all. Michael had just graduated. I had waitress on the side to make some extra money, but we were in no place that we were making a lot of money. The guy actually told us that we should get rid of our dog to save money.
Yeah, I read that in the book, and you
Yeah.
decided not to. That is really what I like the most about reading your book, is that you talk about how you really decided to do it your own way. You definitely took the coaching advice and, used a lot of the resources that were provided to you. But at the end of the day, you looked at what was provided, what your own situation was, and what really fit you the best. So if you can just tell us, what were your 3 number one thing that you did that you think gave you the fastest or the greatest punch to being able to pay down that debt? What were the 3 first things? Like, I did A, B, and C, and that's really what got the ball rolling.
Yeah, well, like you just said, the biggest point that I try to make in this book is that it's all about making your own plan, because it's not going to work for you if it's not individualized to your plan in your life. What's important to me might not be important to the next person. So it's just important to, really go in, look in deep dive into what you're spending, first do by week and by month, and from there create your own plan. So for me, I think my biggest money savers, and I say this all the time, it's a lot of little stuff, but it adds up. I say the biggest thing overall is don't just buy stuff. You don't realize how much on a daily basis you're like, oh, I'll just grab this, I'll grab that, I'll go to the mall, I'll, purchase this candy bar. Everything that you're spending on a day-to-day basis turns into your weekly basis, a monthly basis, and then a yearly basis. So I pretty much just stopped shopping. I didn't, those trips to Target, Michael's, Marshall's, I just stopped shopping because I was going there and I was buying random stuff that I never even thought I needed until I walked in the store. I'm like, I have to have this new yoga mat, right? So I think that is a big one. We sacrificed a bit in each money category and just really had to know and be realistic with our budget as to what we could afford. I'd say groceries are the second biggest thing, because really that's, you can't not eat. But I was pretty good about what we would eat. I wouldn't buy something if it wasn't in season. My husband and I both eat healthy, and that was a point that, okay, we're not gonna, eat crap to save money, but I'm not going to spend $7 on a bag of grapes if they're not in season. So really important to, shop for like what's in season, meal plan. I will refuse to throw out any food, even if I'll make it work in the fridge, in the freezer, whatever I have. I would not throw out a single thing. So groceries is really important. Buying season, less meat, using a lot of veggies, all these things that add up. Sometimes I would even have a grocery cart if I knew what I had left for the month, and I was like, oh, I'm going over. I would just put stuff back. I'm like, nope, we're not doing that. So that was something. And then for women, I would say a huge expense a lot of the time is beauty, getting your hair done, getting your nails done, a facial, massage, all these things that you're like, oh, I need it. Well, do you really need it? So for me, haircut once a year. If I was getting it, I was going on Groupon, $40, and that was it. So right there, you're $900.
Uh-oh, Jeanna, I'll lose half my viewers if you tell them they can't go get their hair done, girl. That won't work for us.
I know, but you just go natural, you do it, you make it work. So those were some of the things, and Groupon saved a lot of money for me.
Awesome, awesome. I'm glad that you mentioned Groupon. You gave a ton of resources that you actually use in terms of technology, websites, and different things like that in order for you to be able to save as much money as you did. What would you say out of all the resources that you gave? I don't want to give it all away, but out of all those savings resources, which ones would you say gave you the best bang for your buck, or you were able to save the most with using any of those things you used online?
Well, I would say Groupon was a high one just because, when Christmas comes around and you're giving gifts, you don't want to not buy things. So if you go on there, the deals you can get, I would save hundreds of dollars on Christmas gifts alone. So that's a huge one. And then I mention a lot in my book, I am a big traveler. I love to travel. So there are so many good sites to find deals. But like I said, like for flights alone, if you go on those low fare calendars, like Southwest has one, Scott's Cheap Flights has one, and you can get a flight, for $100, and you may never have thought you wanted to go to that place, but it's there and you're getting the experience. So, might as well take up on it. So.
Got it. So interesting. So in some areas, you're saying that you planned everything, but then in your leisure activities, it sounds like you're saying that you are being more flexible. So it sounds to me like you're just really trying to find a balance between the two. Whether or not you're going to be more flexible or if you're going to kind of stick to the T in terms of a schedule. Would you say?
Oh, absolutely. I planned out everything for the year in the sense that I had the money for it. So again, I talk about it in the book, but periodic spending or a periodic budget, that's a budget that you're creating for just the year. So that you can think of it as unforeseen expenses or something that you're planning long-term. So for instance, if you know that you want to go on vacation, you've got $3,000 that you're saving throughout the year. So you have that money, and then when it comes down to it, you can kind of choose, well, what's the best bang for my buck? Where can I use that money most? So you're always going to be budgeting for that. The same thing with, like I mentioned, gifts. I have Christmas, I have all this family, I have 3 weddings. That in the year, so you can say, okay, I need $1,000 for weddings. That way, when the weddings come up, you're not scrambling to find money. You've already planned for it for the whole year, so you're good.
Very, very nice. See, I don't think that I get invitations to weddings and things like that a year in advance. So I think I need to tell my friends and family they need to step their game up so that I can put that in my periodic spending budget. That is, I mean, that's absolutely amazing. So when you started this process, I know you said you're kind of a little more frugal than your husband. And so for the couples who are out there, or people who are married or in relationships, did it take much for you to be able to get your husband on board with the debt-free spending and the method that you use to pay down your debt?
Yeah, we were both on board with it. It was mostly his debt. I know it becomes our debt, but it was mostly his debt. But so going into it, we knew that we had to do it. I was definitely the stickler. Like every dollar, if he bought a bottled water at the grocery store, I was like marking it down and telling him. Sometimes he would even say that he was afraid to get a Chipotle bowl because I would make him write it down because you got to be accountable for it. That's what makes it work. we did have, there was conversations, and I mentioned some of these in the book, the fight over like buying organic chicken, which is $12 versus, the $5 chicken. So there are times definitely you have to kind of learn, hey, we don't have all this money to spend. We can't go out and buy our friends all their drinks, and we can't pick up the tab as much as you might want to. You're just not in the place to do that. So I think that was, a growing pain as we were learning, just to kind of figure out when we could, give a little, and then when we could really, just nail down and save. So.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, in the book, you talk about the last day of the month being kind of like your happy day when you were going to make that large loan payment at the last day of the month. Can you tell me if there's something that is significant about making the payment the last day of the month versus the middle of the month or the first day of the month, or how did that help with the pay down method?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I'd get so excited for the last day of the month because I was like, yes, we get to pay the loan, which sounds so funny because you're spending all this money out in your loans and you're excited. And it really is. It's all mental, I think, because all throughout the month, you're saving, and you're watching this number, which would be your cash flow of the money you have left over. And that's all the money that you're getting to put towards a loan. So the significance, I think, of paying that on the last day of the month is that it shows you what you have left at the end of the month. Each month, you start with a new budget. And again, I can show you guys more after, but there is an Excel sheet that we use. So every month it would start, January month, February month. So then going forward, each month was like a fresh new start. So you have your money. Say I have $200 to go and eat out. January 1st comes around. Oh, I get $200. So you get to work your way down. When you get to January 20th, maybe you only have $20 left. So you know that you can't eat out anymore for that month. I think, though, when you get to that last day, it keeps you motivated because you see, I just saved all this money to put towards my loan, and now tomorrow I get to start fresh. So tomorrow I get to do it all over again and go through the next month. So it's just a cycle, and it keeps going. And once you have, that money to put towards your loan, we did the debt snowball. And if you don't know what that is, it's paying off the smallest loan first. So you have $1,000 loan, and you could have that paid off maybe in 3 months, and you're starting to see these loans just slash away. So it keeps you motivated, and you're ready to go.
That's cool. So, did you initially decide, hey, we have this amount of debt and I want to pay this off in 30 months? Was that a part of the game plan? Or were you just saving and just working so hard at saving that it just happened that it was all over and done within 30 months?
Yeah, I don't know if I had an exact number. I think once we started and, the first year we got through, and I'm like, okay, we paid off this much in 12 months. If we keep this going, I can have this paid off in another 18 months. So as we were going, I kept changing the time frame. I think originally my goal was 2 years, and then, things happened and it changed, and we ended up with the 2.5 years. But as you're going, it makes you want to, find ways to save more and make more. Because as you're going, you can't think, oh, if I can, just make a little bit more, I could put towards that loan. Or if I cut back here, then I'll be able to save 1 more month and I can have it done in 29 months. So I don't think initially I had an idea, but as I continued on, I started being like, okay, I have, $100,000 left. If I divide it by this much, then that's how many months I come up with. So.
Gotcha. So on your spreadsheet, there's a line item for how much you're wanting to pay on the debt. Is that correct?
So the spreadsheet, basically what it is, it compiles what you're making, so your net income, and then so say you get 2 paychecks a month, it includes those, and then from there it subtracts all of your costs. So I live in an apartment, so my rent is huge. So that goes in there every month. Then from there, I've got groceries, I've got gas, I've got, car parking, I have to pay to park at work. I've got, television, all these costs. And when I put them in, so say $80 in my Excel sheet for, my electric. So at the end, it calculates and subtracts all these payments. So then at the end, you see what you have left over. That money that's left over is going to go towards your loan.
Gotcha. So you just automatically just say whatever that number is,
Yep.
you're going to go ahead and put that towards the loan. So you talk about the carryover and how on the first of the month everything starts over. So if my budget is $200 for eating out and that month I only spend $175, does that $75 go towards paying off my debt, or does that give me $275 the next month for my eating out?
So that goes all towards your debt. Nothing rolls over.
Okay. So we're starting over at ground zero all the time. Got it.
And what's nice is some people think like, oh, I got to use it all. But sometimes it's good because if you don't use it, you're like, oh, I have $25 more to put towards my loans. So it's great because you get to use what you have. And if you don't use it, great.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Now, a lot of the people who are in my group and people who I'm working with individual coaching, they hated the idea of the Excel spreadsheet. So we use a few different electronic methods. Did you guys consider that, or were you really, really comfortable with the Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, for me, I love the Excel spreadsheet. I live in that. We do use the app Every Dollar. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, you just go in and immediately on the spot, you put everything in. So we use that now just because it's a bit easier, and we have a joint app, so I can see what he's spending, he can see what I'm spending, and it works really well.
Very nice, very nice. When you were using the Excel spreadsheet, did you ever find an electronic way or any way to like download it onto your phone for the Excel spreadsheet, or you guys just kind of kept receipts and then at the end of the day kind of reconciled as to what everything went where? How often were you, I guess, reconciling when you used the paper version?
Yeah, for me, I probably did it like every week. So, on the weekend, I put it all in. A lot of the time I would save it all in my notes in my phone. And again, when you're saving money, you'll see that you're not actually having to track too much because you're not spending that money during the week. So, I might have 4 things to put in because, I got gas one day, $25. I went to the grocery store, $60, and that might be it for the week. So once you start seeing, how much you're able to, cut back, you're not going to have so much to input.
I like it. Now, you go into detail once we talk about, the money that we're already making. You started to seem like you hit your stride with figuring out how to increase your cash flow with doing some things with selling some of your items. Can you talk to us about that, how that went, and what your expertise is or recommendations for folks who want to get into doing that?
Yeah, so I didn't do this until the end, which I regret. But at the end, I was like, okay, I only have this much more left to pay, so I'm going to figure out how to get this off because I wanted that 30-month mark. So the first thing I did, and everyone has this, you have old iPhones, old iPads, cameras, from like 2002. We all have these old electronics that are just, sitting probably like in your closet somewhere. So I went through those. You could go online to Gazelle. That's a great website, and you literally input what your phone is, and they send you a box and you ship it out. So things like that can make you hundreds of dollars very quickly. Old computers was important. I started doing. I didn't do too well. I still want to though. Going around and going to thrift stores and yard sales and finding some of those things that you can find that are selling really well online, and that can be a whole job in itself. I have a friend that does it with clothing, and you'll see there's so many websites like this now, but you can go on and people are buying used clothing and making hundreds of dollars as just a separate side job. So there's lots.
Nice. Yeah. Are there any specific sites other than Gazelle that you really, really like? Did you ever use like eBay or any of those?
I used eBay. I used Amazon. I think Amazon and eBay are the best if you just have, some random things like furniture, an old table, old appliances for kitchens, those KitchenAids, you might have an extra one. Those sell for a lot of money. So even going through, your parents' basement or something, you can find brand new things that have just been piling up and people just want to get rid of it. So.
So I missed out on the whole summer of going to all the different garage sales and picking up items that I could have been selling and making money to pay down my student loan debt. Is that what you're telling us?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Now, did you ever use any like consignment shops for clothing sales or anything like that?
I didn't. I tried and it wasn't for me. My best friend does it though and does really, really well with it. I'll have to I can send you guys the website because I can't think of it off the top of my head, but she's got hundreds of items on there. She just posts them and then people buy them. They're, designer items she gets for next to nothing at these thrift stores. So.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, today I actually went out to Limited Brands that's actually headquartered here in Columbus, Ohio, and I met with a clothing buyer and a merchandiser, and we're preparing for another one of our upcoming videos. And the topic of discussion was purchasing higher quality items for the purpose of consignment to be able to get basically a double bang for your buck. You can look nice while you're wearing it, but because those items cost a little more, the value holds up a lot better. So you can go ahead and consign them and be able to make quite a bit of money afterwards. So you got me thinking when I read that part of your book. And so I started to really investigate some other ways to be able to do that. So I love it. I love it. Uh, Listen, there is something that is just really, really, really important to me, and we can start to wrap up. I can see a couple of questions that have been coming in, and I think we've actually answered them. And looks like we've got a very active viewer, Miss Terry Lynn Erkson has been very active. What I'd like to talk to you about, though, is the fact that you still tithed. You still gave a percentage of your income. You put that on your budget to tithe to your church. Can you talk to me about how that fit into your new financial program? If that was something you always did, and just talk to me about that. Where are you fitting in as far as that?
Yeah, so tithing was not something we had originally started with or had in mind or really knew too much about. Both my husband and I went to church a bit growing up, but it wasn't something that, we followed strictly. So, the $20 here and there on Sunday was all that we knew. So when we learned about tithing a bit more, it became important to us just because, God says that you're supposed to be giving your money to the church and helping out others. And we started doing that, I would say, maybe halfway through. So not the whole time. And again, they say 10%. We also didn't start there, if we're being completely honest. So we did the 5%. And once you put it into your budget and it becomes a category and a line item, you don't even know that you're not getting that money. It's not coming to you. And it makes it a lot easier because it's just not your money anymore. It's just going out to the church. You stop thinking so much about money and it's, the end all be all, because it's not. So it became really important and a part of our life. So. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I love that you said you started with the 5% because a lot of people, won't even start there. Now, I know everyone is not into the belief that giving to the church, and some people are completely opposed to it. A lot of people who believe in it, though, feel like when you give your first fruits, your first 10% to the church, that actually comes back to you in the form of a blessing. Did you feel like the fact that you all were making sure you set that amount of money aside, that helped you in your overall journey in terms of being able to pay off the debt so fast?
Yeah, I absolutely do. Because even looking back now, we still question, like, how did we do this? And you can only, go do so much on your own. You're obviously getting help. And that was a blessing. By doing it, it's not just about us, it's about everyone else. It's about being able to help other people. And if you have the ability to do so, it really, you'll see it come back to you, I think, in the end. And I also, what you mentioned here, that often, I give this, but in return, I receive so much more, and it allows you then to do more and give more. So it's all a cycle, and I 100% believe that as well.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we have 5 viewers that are still on live, and if you all have any questions that we have not been able to cover, please, by all means, go ahead and add those into the chat, because we can see those, and we'll be sure to get those answered because we've got a little bit more time left. I have one question that did come in from one of my credit repair colleagues, and they wanted you to talk about credit. How do you feel about overall credit in general? Because if you're saying, hey, I'm paying off all my debt, then it's kind of impossible really to have a credit score if you don't owe anybody. So talk to us about what your idea is there. How do you feel? Do you feel like, oh, I need to keep something going so that I can keep the credit score? Or just give us your feedback on credit at this point.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I always had a credit card, and I think that it's fine to have a credit card as long as you're using it smart and you're not, exceeding what is in your bank account. In the society we live in, you kind of, they make you think that you need a credit score if you need to get approved, you want to buy a home, and you don't have, $200,000 in cash, of course. So I think having a credit card is fine. But again, when I had a credit card and I was making a purchase, for gas and groceries here and there, every week I'm going back in and I'm paying that off immediately, because I don't want to get interest charges. I don't want something growing. If you ever have more credit card spent, or like money on your credit card than what's in your bank account, that would be the issue. I would never buy something large on the credit card, oh, it's just going on my credit card, I'll pay it off later, because that's when you start accruing that interest, and that's when you get in the credit card debt, because you can't get out of that hole. So.
I like it. Looks like we have a question that came in from Terry Lynn. She'd like to ask, what was your biggest struggle with adapting to your new budget, or even what was the pitfalls that you'd like to advise us to try to avoid with adapting to a new budget? Thanks, Terry Lynn.
Thank you. I think the hardest thing about adapting to a new budget is, getting into the day-to-day routine of, hey, I can't just go out and spend money here and there. I can't just go to Starbucks every day and, spend money on a $5 coffee. It's that little stuff that you might not even question, but it all adds up. $5 on Starbucks today and tomorrow and a week, $30 later, that's a large chunk of your money. So I really think it's just getting used to saying no. Sometimes friends are asking you to go out, and it's going to be an expensive dinner, and you might not want to spend $100, and you just have to be okay with telling them, hey, got to take a rain check, I can't make it work this time. So I think that was something that was a little bit challenging in the beginning, because you get the comments, and people think that you're just like trying to be cheap and not go out. So I think that was a challenge. And I guess that would be a pitfall too, is, getting your family to come on board, and, stepping away from what everyone thinks is normal, because everyone's living in this world of debt.
Got it. So, Jeanna, what I've been advising my small groups and my individual participants who come to me for cash coaching is to only use cash while they're doing their shopping, because I think it hurts a little bit more, and you can actually see it, feel it, touch it when it's going out of your hands. So you have a tendency to hold on to it a little bit longer. And prior to the only using cash, I typically recommend that they do a detox where they actually go ahead and give up spending for a short period of time just so that they can start to get acclimated to living without the habit of consistently purchasing. Now, I don't know if that is something that you read in the book that, kind of got you started or your coaching, but what do you think about that advice?
I love that idea. I would want to do it tomorrow just for fun. For me, I always like to, it becomes a challenge. So, you just cut yourself off. And once you see if you can do it in a week, how much you're saving, and then you could also see, hey, that's how much I was spending. It really, opens up your eyes and makes you realize what you're spending your money on. And like I said, it's those little things, just grabbing this and grabbing that as you're walking through the store, or just some silly little things that you might not think anything of. And then when you're conscious about it and you're holding yourself accountable, like, oh, I have to go and write this down if I spent it, it makes you question everything that you were purchasing before. So I might try that tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, we would love to invite you next time we do a spending detox and see how things go along with that. We'll be happy to invite you in our group on Facebook when we do that. Now, here's my overriding question. So now all your debt's paid off. So you and I've spoken a couple times, and so I know that at this point you have not purchased a home. You said that you were still renting. Now, will you use these same techniques that you've been using to pay off the debt to put that money aside for down payment on a home? Or what in the world are you doing with all the extra money you have now that the debt's paid off?
Yeah, so I actually don't feel like I have a lot of extra money, which is funny enough because you would think after all this, you have all this money coming in that's not going towards loans. But what we did, again, afterwards, we met with a financial advisor to kind of help us figure out, long term, so retirement and where our money should be going. So what we did, we each put our 401ks up to 15%. So that was coming out of our paycheck, which was pretty substantial. We started a Roth IRA. So with that, $5,500 each a year was going out to that. And then we started another small liquidated fund for, just investing. So each month that's going out. So whereas we thought we had a lot of money left over, it actually turned out that we started placing it in the places that we thought long term it would need to go. And then from there, we, like you mentioned, saving for a down payment on a house or these things. These are the things that I just need to start saving for as a periodic. Hey, if I know in a couple of years I need to have this amount of money, that's what I'm going to be saving for. So it's, again, just planning and having that periodic budget each year.
Yeah, Jeanna, I don't know what the real estate is like where you live, but if you take 30 more months and save up another $185,000, you can buy a house cash here in Ohio, and it's a pretty decent sized house for a small family. So you may want to consider taking a look at Ohio because that's a drop in the bucket for sure, for sure. Well, hey, I don't think I'm going to just double check one more time to see if there are any additional questions that have come across. And okay, yeah, it doesn't look like there are any additional questions that have come across. So if you can just give us some quick tips, maybe your top 3 things just to kind of help keep us motivated while we are starting to get our personal finances in order and being able to save for our goals and pay down our debt. What would be your 3 main foundational things you'd give us to keep us motivated and going?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to find a balance. I talk about this a lot. When you set your budget, it's not going to be about what I want or what this person wants. It's got to be about a balance that works for your life. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get through. You might be able to do it for 2 months, but are you going to be able to do it for 2 years or 3 years? So finding that balance, what's important to you, and making it work is the biggest thing, because it's got to have longevity. It can't just be a quick one and done type of thing. Secondly, and this is huge, is determining your needs versus your wants. And you'll find that most of what we do in life is all about what we want versus what we need. You'll see that when you're, every single day you'll be like, oh, I want this, but well, do I really need that? So that's going to save you a lot of money once you find out what you need versus what you want. Lastly, what did I say? I think just, really being determined and looking at the future. Just for me, I can tell you, not having that debt hanging over your head, it gives you so much hope. It gives you a feeling that you could do, anything, because you have this money now, you're not tied to anything. And it just opens up your life to so many more possibilities. And it's just a great feeling. So I think I can't speak for everyone, but just knowing what that feeling is like, you'll want to get there, and just working through it day to day and not giving up. Don't look so far out where you're like, I can't come out of this, because you very well can.
Awesome. That is an absolutely wonderful message. Now, we're talking about your book, and your book is The Debt-Free Scream. And when did the book come out?
So the book came out in May, just this year.
Okay, so fresh and hot off the presses. Now, I just want to share with you all, viewers who are still on, I think that there is a special offer for us tonight up until a certain point where we can get the book at a discount if we'd like to order it online. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so if you go on until midnight tonight, it's 99 cents, and you can download it. It's an ebook that you can download on your phone, on your Kindle, iBooks, so anything electronic, you can get it for 99 cents. If you don't have that, we do have the paperback version, and that is just $7. So if you have any questions on it, or once you've read it, obviously message me. I'd love to hear about your story and see if I can help you.
Great. And where can we find you if we decide that we want to message you?
Yeah, so I have my Facebook page, The Debt-Free Scream, or if you go on my Instagram, just my name, Jeanna Infantino, which I believe Nicole has. So either of those platforms, you can reach me, and I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. I'm going to just check one last time to see if there are any last questions. And from what I see, it looks like our audience is quiet. So they are saying thank you. And I definitely want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day as a busy author and coming online to talk to all of us about how you and your husband were able to achieve the debt-free scream and be able to pay down. You have given me so much inspiration and hope, because the first thing that I have my folks do when I'm coaching them is to know their numbers. And so I followed along and I pulled up my number. And when I looked at that debt number for my student loan, it was so daunting. So I think that was what drew me to your book, because I needed to know that someone could actually get it done. So you definitely helped me, encouraged me, inspired me. And I really, really appreciate the time that you took to talk to the audience today. And hopefully everyone was able to gain some information and they know where to find you. Definitely reach out to Jeanna Infantino and on her social media site. She's very responsive. So anything that you'd like to share, ask or know, definitely do that. And I certainly encourage you to go ahead and get that book until midnight for 99 cents to be able to download that onto your Kindle app. Definitely won't be any money wasted. And since we're talking about saving money, being able to buy it for 99 cents when the book is actually $7, that's $6 that you can put into your debt payback bucket. So I think that's a great way to get yourself going. You can find me, the Urban Cash Coach, on Facebook under my company name, Go Fund Your Life, here on the YouTube channel, and also on Pinterest under Go Fund Your Life, well as Instagram on Go Fund Your Life. So if you are interested in any type of personal cash coaching, like what Jeanna talked about, that is something that I offer. And I can definitely help anyone who's watching this be able to get started to build up their stamina, to prepare to be able to save the money that they need so they can go ahead and start taking over their goals. Because my goal ultimately is to have 100,000 more people just like you, Jeanna. We want to see people who are doing the debt-free scream. They're saying that they've gotten everything paid off and now they've got that weight off their back and they can live a different lifestyle. So I am just so appreciative of you coming over and just thank you so much. Do you have anything else that you want to say before we sign off?
I just want to thank you all. I appreciate, having me come on. I love sharing the story, and I just really hope that I can help you all out in some way and just give you hope and motivation that it's possible. It sounds like a lot of money. It is, but, if you just stick with it, get a plan and a budget, you will be good. So thank you.
Awesome. Guys, if you are watching this and it's not live, then you should be able to see links in the comments to the Amazon link to be able to get the book. You should see links in the comment to both my social media and Jeanna's social media. And if you do watch that, let us know that you saw it and just type in the comments that you were here and you saw the replay. So if my good friend Gwen Jameer is watching this, I want you to know that I got that from you. So she live streams all the time and she has people type in replay so she can know who came through and watched it after. And maybe our timing needs to be a little bit different for more people to come on. So we're looking forward to having more opportunities like this and sharing as much information as possible. So for now, we want to say good night and goodbye. And everybody, I want you all to be able to go fund your own lives, okay? Thanks so much for signing on and have a great evening.